we start the painting. This is taking a look at how you get that image onto that piece of blank white artboard that's been staring you in the face all day. It's going to be dirty and it's going to be messy at times, and it's going to be very time consuming and fiddly, but it's all very important. So brace yourself, eyes down, and here we go. Not having access to a TR6 presented some problems. I normally like to take my own photographs to make sure of clarity, sharpness, that I have all the right reference shots of small things like wiper blades, mirrors, wheels, headlamps, that sort of thing. So what I had to do really was trawl the web, look at cars that were for sale. The only trouble is with such photographs is that they're there to sell cars. They're not there as a reference tool for me, and the resolution isn't great. So as soon as you zoom in on something to see what's really going on an area of a photograph, it starts to break up. This was to be a major problem. Another thing to consider is what aspect do you want to see of the car? What do you want to show off? What do you want it to look like? What sort of mood do you want the stance of the car to have? Well, because I'm going to be selling these as adjustable prints, I need a good shot of a number plate, a good angle, a good viewpoint for that, and I need to see a little bit of the interior because I'm going to be offering colour changes to things like the hood bag and the seats, patterning on the seats even, addition of headrests which will show even more of the interior. All these things are worth considering, so I wanted something that would give the muscular stance of the TR6. Now, although I always paint a static view of a car, I like to give a feeling of dynamics, of movement. So I decided that the photograph that I had, whilst it met most of the requirements, it really needed a wheel turned slightly, just to give a little bit of a sense of movement. So I sourced other photographs with different angles of the front wheel, and I combined the two together in Photoshop to give me the final view that I wanted. The wheel looks a little, or rather the tyre looks a little flat, deformed. I'm not too bothered about that at this stage because I will correct that later using ellipse templates. I've also carried out a quick cutout in Photoshop to make the next stage easier, which is to trace the car down onto the artboard. I've already mentioned that the quality of this photograph is not great. When you go to look at it in close detail, there's so much that is blurred, smeary, not there, too much in shadow. When you drop a sheet of tracing paper over it to get it down onto the artboard, even the already compromised detail is made worse because it's like looking at it through a thin sheet of frosted glass. Again, I'm not too bothered about that at this stage because I'm not really looking for that accurate a trace. All I want are the basic proportions and shape of the vehicle onto the artboard, because I'm going to have to redraw anything with fairly meticulous care anyway. Your tracing is never going to be that accurate. It's just an aid. The first thing I'm going to be looking at is wheels and tyres. These are the hardest things to get right, and you're going to need ellipse templates really to do the job. You can get these in various sizes. I've got quite a large set. This particular ellipse template that you're looking at here is 4 inches tall. And that's the biggest I can go to. So I'm a little compromised on size. Take note of the guidelines at the top, bottom and sides of each ellipse. You're going to need to mark those paths, those lines on your artwork, because you're going to have to constantly refer back to them. You will adjust your ellipse sizes to suit and position by sliding along the horizontal axis, because say if you're doing a wheel at 55 degrees, pretty much every ellipse on there is going to be at 55 degrees. The size will alter and the position sliding along that axis will change. This is how you construct a wheel with as much technical accuracy as possible. Here's a closer view of the ellipse template being used. Again, take very careful note of those guidelines. They are so important to make sure that geometrically your wheel stays true to what it should be, that it looks correct. Here I've slid a piece of paper between the printed out photo and the tracing just to show up in stark relief the lines of working out. You can see the ellipses are all bunched up together on the left hand side, but on the right they're more spread out. This is getting your geometry right. It's very, very important that you keep a careful eye on this. Here the tracing's moving on a little bit. There's some more detail in there. Most of the basic stuff is down there. Here you can see brought into play French curves. There's a fixed one at the top of the picture. And also the blue one is a flexible curve for those very long ones or awkward shapes that you can't readily match. They're quite stable when you've moulded them into shape. Don't be afraid of using them. I should point out at this stage that there will be a lot of apparent distortion in this illustration. On paper, the geometry is just fine, but the photographs were taken by just holding an iPhone over the artboard, so there's some lens distortion there. Try to ignore that. It's actually fine on paper, trust me. Again, I'm putting a piece of paper between the photograph and the tracing just to check out how all the line work's going on. You'll have heard me in previous videos in this series talking about cleanliness and how important it is to keep that artboard clean to avoid problems with airbrushing later. So here we are with the tracing flipped over, and I use a soft 2B pencil just to roughly scribble over the lines. Take note of the piece of cotton wool at the side. This is going to be used to clean off any surplus graphite on the back of the tracing paper to avoid smudges on your artwork. And there you can see all that excess lead, graphite I should say, that's been taken off the tracing. When you actually come to draw this down onto your artboard, it's going to be so much better. There won't be any heavy deposits of graphite or anything. It'll be as clean as you can get it. You can see here I've just flipped the tracing up and out of the way so that I can take a look at how it's actually transferring down onto paper. To do this, I'll use a 6H pencil because it needs to be hard enough to press down onto that tracing to get your image down there without actually losing its point. Also, notice there were a lot of photographs of TR6s. Always get plenty of reference around you, the best that you can, and keep it by you at all times, constantly checking everything. Here's a close-up of the first bit of the tracing that's gone down. As you can see, it's just enough to do the job. It's wildly inaccurate. You're going to have to very carefully redraw everything, hand to eye really, over what you've done. This is just to get you started. This photo shows sometimes the lengths you have to go to get the painting as accurate as you possibly can, using a pair of dividers to measure out the distance of the slats in the front grille. You need to have the right number in there, and they need to be equally spaced. Here you can see the pencil work is now complete. This is enough to be able to start painting with, but you're not out of the woods yet, because as you go along through the painting you're going to see things that you're really not that happy with, so you'll be correcting as you go. Now it's time to protect the painting as much as you can. So a sheet of layout paper, detail paper, whatever, has had a hole cut in it, and it's been taped down with good old masking tape to make sure that you don't get paint anywhere you don't want to. Always aim to keep things clean. In the next video, we'll be looking at putting some colour down using markers and the airbrush and paint brushes and all the other things that help you to build up colour on the image.